once 3 brothers, traveling along a lonely, winding road at twilight. In time, they came upon a river, too deep to wade through, and too dangerous to swim across. But mortal though they were, these brothers were no ordinary travelers, no. They were learned in the magical arts, and so they simply waved their wands and made a bridge appear before them across the treacherous water. Laughing lightheartedly, they were halfway across when they found their path was blocked by a tall, hooded figure. And then death spoke to them. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you a tale of magic, of life, and of death. The tale of the 3 brothers from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Death was angry. He had been cheated out of 3 new souls, for normally travelers perished in the river. But Death was cunning. He congratulated the brothers upon their magic and said that each had earned a prize for having been so clever. The first brother, who was a warlike man, asked only for a wand, the most powerful wand in existence, a wand that must always win duels for its owner, a wand worthy of the wizard who had conquered death. And so Death crossed to an elder tree that overhung the river and pulled from it a single twisted branch. He crafted it into a magnificent wand and gave it to the first brother. The second brother, who was an arrogant man, wanted to humiliate Death even further. So he asked for the power to recall souls from the dead. And so Death reached into the depths of the murky river and plucked from it a single icy stone. He turned it over thrice in his cold hand and gave it to the second brother. And then he asked the third brother what he would like. The third brother was the youngest and also the wisest, and he did not trust Death. So he thought carefully, and he thought, and finally, he asked for something that would allow him to go forth from that place without being followed by Death. And so Death, most unwillingly, took off his own cloak of invisibility and gave it to the youngest brother. Then he stood aside and let them continue on their way. And they journeyed on, talking with wonder of the adventure they had had and of Death's gifts, until they reached the place where the road forked in 3, and each went on his own way. The first brother journeyed on for a week or more until he reached a distant village. There he sought out a rival wizard and naturally challenged him to a duel. With the elder wand as his weapon, he left his rival dead upon the floor. Then he proceeded to an inn where he boasted loudly and drunkenly of his victory and of the powerful wand he had snatched from Death himself, a wand, he said, that made him invincible. And that very night, as he lay wine-sodden upon his bed, another wizard crept into his room, stole that wand, and for good measure, slit the throat of the eldest brother. And so Death took the first brother for his own. Meanwhile, the second brother traveled on to his own home, where he lived alone. That evening, he sat in his stiff leather chair, warming himself before the fire, and revisiting old memories. He took from his pocket the stone Death had given him and turned it over thrice in his hand. A sudden draft tore through the house and extinguished at once the crackling fire. And there came from outside the sounds of a woman crying. Cautiously, the second brother opened the door. And to his amazement and delight, there stood before him the figure of the woman he had once hoped to marry before her untimely death. He reached for her crying face, but found that she was icy cold, separated from him as by a veil. She had returned to the mortal realm, but she did not truly belong, and so she suffered and suffered until finally, driven mad with longing, the second brother killed himself so as to truly join her. And so Death took the second brother for his own. And though he spent many, many years looking for the third brother, he was never able to find him. It was only after that youngest, wisest brother had lived a good, long life, a virtuous life, and had attained a great age, that he took off the cloak of invisibility and gave it to his own son. And then he greeted Death as an old friend, and together, as equals, they departed this life. Thank you. Welcome to the 123rd Kaucher Mitchell Mathis-Swanson event for excellence in storytelling and oral interpretation. It is a time and talent-honored tradition. I got the cards, because sometimes you need the cards, which, by the way, is being broadcast live on KSJS 90.5. And I'd like to welcome our anchor, former finalist Ramon Johnson. With commentary from former fellow, Joseph Barada. Okay, at this time we ask, guess what I'm going to ask? I know you know what I'm going to ask you to do. At this time, please take out, turn off, and put away all cell phones, smartphones, laptops, Blackberries, Blueberries, typewriters, word processors, beepers, pagers, drones, time machines, and teleportation devices, or any other noise-making contraptions you kids are into these days. I admit I got a little carried away there, but that's the last time I get to say it up here, so thank you for humoring me. Okay, back on track. And now, in keeping with tradition, it is my honor to light the performance candle, celebrating the oral tradition and our 123rd event of excellence, along with a few words of wisdom. Better to light one small candle than to curse the darkness. That's a Chinese proverb. Tonight's finalists were selected on Tuesday from a preliminary round of 25 performers with a total of 30 entries. It was pretty epic. Tonight's storytellers will present stories from recorded or literary sources, but each has made the piece their own. In contrast, in oral interpretation, though the selections are fully memorized and performed verbatim, the performer holds the black book to signify the author's intent. In both categories, this is where it gets tricky, in both categories, any pieces that run under the 5-minute mark or touch the 8-minute mark, unfortunately, will be disqualified. We'd like to thank tonight's timer, Mr. Lee Brooks. Where are you, Mr.? Finalists will perform in program order this time. And now it's time to introduce tonight's esteemed judges. Please welcome former Kaucher Fellow, Kara Jenis. And also former Kaucher Fellow, Erica Kavanagh. Take a moment really quickly to acknowledge that we're very honored to have in our audience tonight many former fellows, judges, timers, finalists, and participants. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you. And really quick, a quick shout out to Nicole Abrego for her genius program design. Thank you so much, Nicole. Okay, so now we're going to begin the main event, starting with the storytelling category. Please give a warm welcome to our first performer, Robin Harris.
Once upon a time, that's how any good story starts. It opens our imaginations and takes us into a world where we can be knights in shining armor, damsels in distress, creatures crying, "My precious," or southern bells sighing, "I'll think of it tomorrow. After all, tomorrow is another day." It takes us on magic carpet rides through the hallways of Hogwarts to infinity and beyond, and back again to a little house on the prairie. Stories are timeless, and everyone has a story to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my adaptation of the fantastic flying books of Mr. Morris Lesmore by William Joyce. Mr. Morris Lesmore loved words. He loved books, but most of all, he loved a good story. His life was a story, one that he wrote every day. He took out his pen, picked up his book, and he wrote of his joys and sorrows, everything he knew, and everything he hoped for, one orderly page after another. Now, any good story has a plot twist, and this plot twist was a twister. The wind howled, "Oh!" and it blew, and it blew, and it roared. Roar. Until all of his well-ordered words were flung to the far corners of the earth. When all was still, he picked up his book and he began to walk. He kept his eyes downcast, hoping to find a stray word caught on a tumbleweed or where the sidewalk ends. One day, he looked up and he saw a lady bobbing on the breeze carried by a bouquet of books. Fantastic flying books. "Oh, perhaps my book will help me fly." And he threw it up into the air and held out his arms. But it fell back to the earth with a disappointing thud. "Oh, good sir, all you need is a good story to get you going again." And she tossed him down her favorite book. Oh, and it was a saucy little story with a gorgeous red cover. She gave him a come hither, nod of the head, and sashayed off. And he would have followed her into the hellfires of Mordor. Fortunately for him, he only followed her into an extraordinary room stuffed to the brim with books. The room came to life, and 1,000 stories began whispering to him, "Oh, wherever shall I begin?" And his sassy little friend fluttered open her covers and preened her pages as if to say, "Hello." Now that was an offer he could not refuse, and thus began his life as a reader. Now when the townsfolk heard there was a new reader in town, they flocked to hear his stories, and he read to them every day from the vast collection of books. He would call out, "Let the rumpus begin!" And the children would run to hear where the wild things are. When they were sick, he sat by their beds and read to them from The Princess Bride, leaving out the kissing part. "And you never go against Cecilia when it comes to death." Oh, and then he would die dramatically. But the perennial favorite was the godfather of them all. "I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse." They gave him an A for effort, but not for execution. And on the 31st day of the month, he read something obscure, like the sands and mists. "They say the devil made me do it. I never made anyone do anything. Never." And no, the devil did not make him do it. He believed that every story deserved to be heard. Now, at the end of the day, he would try to tuck the books in an orderly manner, but they were a boisterous bunch. They couldn't find their favorite bookmarker. The tragedies were depressed, and the comedies were trying to cheer them up. The encyclopedias, fatigued by facts and figures, were chilling with the comic books. And more than once, he had to raise his voice above the rumpus and say, "My darlings, go the Fuji mountain to sleep." and then the rustling would die down, and the dictionary would sigh. And then he would restore the books that needed mending. He strengthened their spines and smoothed out the dog ears. And then he would finally pick up his pen, take out his book, and he wrote of his joys and sorrows, everything he knew and everything he hoped for. And so the days quickly and happily passed until his back began to stoop and his hands became gnarled, and he could barely hold his beloved books any longer. And so the books sat beside his bed, and they read their stories to him. And at the end of the day, they tucked themselves in an orderly manner, and the dictionary sighed. And then he would painfully pick up his pen, take out his book, and he wrote of his joys and sorrows, everything he knew and everything he hoped for, until he filled the final page. It was time for the hard goodbye. The books understood. Time had changed them in a way it had never changed him. Had never changed them. I shall carry you all in my heart. And he waved goodbye. And as he left, his spine strengthened and his hands smoothed out. The books had restored him as he had restored them. Why, look, he left his book. And they all gathered round. And the little fellow popped open his covers and puffed out his pages as if to say, "Hello, old sport." And there it was, the story of his life. Now each one of you has a story to tell. Whether you write it, paint it, sing it, or dance it, never be afraid to tell your story or to go out on a limb. That's where the fruit is. Just remember how all good stories end. And they all lived happily ever after. The end.
Our next storyteller is Megan Johansson.
one-night stand. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Someone Explain One-Night Stands to Me by Mindy Kaling. According to every magazine and television program ever made, this is super unforgivably lame. And it behooves me that I have to go and reclaim my groove on an all-girls party trip to an unincorporated island territory of the United States? I don't think so. It seems like every romantic comedy I watch depicts our adorable young heroine walking sheepishly out of a stranger's house in the morning with bedhead and her once sexy smoky eye makeup completely smudged off. She may not yet have found her Mr. Right. This is only the beginning of the movie. But she's having fun looking. I just don't understand all of that, and here's why. In my mind, there is nothing more sexy than the feeling of being wanted. The slightly nervous asking of the telephone number. The text message asking to dinner. The simple overture of wanting me can satisfy my ego for a long time. The sexual situation that could come from it, well, that's just less appealing to me. I don't mean to say that I don't enjoy sex. I am a properly functioning mammal and everything. I just think, who is this guy? Don't you need to know a little bit more about a guy than an hour's worth of conversation at a bar to make sex appealing? Also, fear is a pretty big turnoff. Well, I'm talking about safety here. And I don't mean like sexual safety, like STDs or whatever. I mean like good old-fashioned life and death safety. Here's what I can't wrap my brain around. I hardly even talk to strangers. habit that I've picked up as a child, and it has served me well into my adulthood. So the idea of going over to a stranger's house or having that stranger come over to my place, I find insanely dangerous. These fears have made it so that when my friend tries to share with me her one-night stand story, I'm a pretty irritated listener. So, it was like 2 a.m. that same night, and I hear this knock on the door, and I'm in my bathrobe, and I'm wearing nothing else. Nothing else? No, I said nothing else. No underwear? No. Am I the only one that finds that completely uncomfortable? I mean, don't you ever excrete? Gross? Stop it. Okay, but let's get back to this no underwear conversation later. So anyways, like I said, I hear this knock on the door. Wait, hold on. I just realized that your doorman let this guy in without ever seeing him before. So, well, doesn't that disturb you that your doorman would just let any old guy off the street up into your apartment? Me and my doorman are fine. Okay, well, I just feel like there should be some type of maybe list that he could have, like a book with some name, pictures, phone numbers. Are you gonna let me finish telling you the damn story or what? Okay, fine, sorry. Go ahead. So anyways, I let him in. The doorman? The guy, yeah, the guy. Go ahead. So, I let him in. And he's taking his time looking around the place, really taking it in. He was casing the joint. No, he wasn't casing no joint. He was being sweet and sexy, and he even made these cute little jokes when he saw my family photos. And then he asked if he could see my bedroom. Your bedroom, where he could rape and murder you. Eventually, my constant interruptions irritated my friend so much that she stopped telling me about her sexy story. I guess nothing puts a damper on a one-night stand than your friend pointing out all the opportunities where you might have been killed. Don't get me wrong, I love hearing about it. I don't want to come off as being prim or proper or someone that doesn't go watch R-rated movies. I just don't think that I could ever do it myself. So here's what I'm like. If you are coming over to my apartment, I need to know your first and last name. The name of a friend whom we both know so that you can't go run off and disappear after you try to rape and murder me. Ultimately, it comes down to this. How embarrassing would it be for me to be talking to a detective at the precinct of a crime and I don't have any of your information because we were having a one-night stand? I've seen Law & Order SVU. I know how it works. Thank you.
Our next performer is Jessica Osegueda.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jessica Osegueda, and I present to you Las Doñas de Humboldt Park by Lily B. Summer, 1999. I'm about 8 years old. Not much I knew at 8 years old. I mean, I knew some things, like I knew it was hot. It was 8 a.m. and I was already sticking to myself. I knew in about 30 minutes, all my cousins were gonna come barreling through that door because my grandma took it upon herself to babysit all 10 of us. All day, all summer. I also knew that at 11:55, my grandma was gonna let me play outside, unsupervised. Why 11:55? Because that gave her exactly 5 minutes to cut up a mango, throw a juice box at us, in time to catch her first novela. Because she loved novellas. That I knew. And so, sure enough, 11:55 rolls around, she cuts up a mango, throws a juice box at us, we're putting on our jelly sandals, váyanse. And we were gone. God help us if we interrupted her. And so we're outside having a ball. You see, today was an especially happy day because someone the night before had forgotten to turn off the fire hydrant, and it had flooded the entire block. And so for us, this was our water park. And for a poor girl like me from Richmond, where you couldn't go to the pool or the park because they were shooting it up, this was where it was at. And so I knew at 8 years old that I had to get me a piece of this. And so we're playing unsupervised because my grandma was mean. And so getting a break from her was just like, yes. And we turned abandoned cars into slip and slides, and there was not a spot on the block where you could walk without splashing water. This was heaven. This was heaven for us. And it wasn't around 2 or 3 when the parents came home, and it was sort of like this unwritten rule that when you came home, all you did was take off your shoes, roll up your pants, and head to your front door. Or if you're wearing nylons, you just went around the back alley. But anyways, it was this unwritten rule. Everybody knew it. Everybody except for Doña Lupe. You see, Doña Lupe lived on the other side of the fire hydrant. And today, Doña Lupe is pushing her stroller, walking across the water with her little baby angel. Not like a little angel baby, but like her baby named Angel, who she thought was an angel. And anyway, I'm playing this mean game of tag with my cousin Susie, and so I zip right past Doña Lupe, I run by her, and Susie, who's supposed to be behind me, suddenly isn't behind me anymore. And I turn around to catch Doña Lupe grabbing my cousin Susie by the arm, taking off her slipper and smacking her across the other arm. Watch where you're going, you smashed my kid in the face with water. Susie grabs her arm, crosses the street, sits down on the porch and proceeds to cry. Meanwhile, I'm right behind her like, girl, you better go tell Grandma. And in her tears and in her snot, she tells me, I can't because she's watching her novella. And I'm like, you got a point. You got a point. But I know at 8 years old that this is not right. And so I say, you know what? I'm gonna go tell her. I'm the oldest girl cousin, I'm gonna go tell her. And so I run my ass upstairs, and I reach the French doors that lead into her bedroom, and I see her, and I freeze. And I decide it's probably best to wait for a commercial break. But then she hears me, ¿Y quién anda allá? Pues, soy yo, Jessica. ¿Y qué quieres? Pues, alguien le... Well, we were playing outside, and somebody hit Susie. Click. ¿Qué? Which was a rhetorical question because she was already putting on her shoes and grabbing me out the door. Let's go. We reached the bottom of the stairs where Susie's at, and she says, ¿Y tú pendejas, por qué no dices nada? And she's grabbing the both of us, and we cross the street. And back then, we didn't need no doorbells. My grandma, Doña Lupe! See, Doña María, que tú te pegues a mi nieta? And so Doña Lupe proceeds to explain why she hit her. Well, yeah, she smashed my son in the kid's face with water. Oh, like your son's made out of sugar. Ven pa' acá. Ven pa' acá. And so Doña Lupe starts to make her way downstairs. And once she gets there, the two proceed to lip box for about 10 minutes, just ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, back and forth, until Doña Lupe says, well, maybe you should watch your fucking children. And that is when my grandmother snapped. And she just started punching. And then they were punching. They were like rock'em sock'em robots. They never moved from where they were. And they were punching and they were punching and they never moved. Until one of them, not my grandma, all of a sudden collapsed like a rock'em sock'em robot and started begging, please, please, ya no me pegues, ya no me pegues. My grandma stopped, wiped her hands on her apron, and proceeded to go inside and watch her novelas. But before we got inside, she says to me, no hagas lo que yo hago. And God help you if you interrupt me again. I said I didn't know much at 8 years old. But that day, I knew my grandma loved me. I knew it from the bottom of my heart. She beat that lady's ass. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to present to you I Am the Machine by Bert Kaucher. It was 1993, and I was taking Russian classes in high school. Well, this was an accident. But when I remarked to the teacher I was going to drop the class, she pulled me aside. If one more student dropped, the entire class was going to have to disband, which meant she couldn't get her master's degree. If I just showed up and didn't do any work, she would give me a C. This sounded like a pretty sweet deal at the time. After taking Russian 1, 2, and 3, it was time to take Russian 4, which meant we were traveling to Russia. But this was the early 90s when the mob ran the country. So if you wanted to do anything in Russia, you had to literally pay off the mob, which is exactly what we did. And in return, we had 2 members of the mob who would be watching over us. My teacher gathered us all around. Now, class, these 2 men's names are Igor and Sasha. Whatever you do not talk to them, do not interact with them. I mean, obviously, I had to get to know these guys better. I grabbed a bottle of vodka and later that night, marched up to their rooms, knocked on the door, and Igor lumbered out with a cigar hanging out of his mouth. Stop. And I start panicking as I'm realizing I don't know any Russian. I've never actually had to learn anything in this class. All the phrases that I've learned here or there over the years leave my mind, and the only thing I can think of is Yamashina. Sto. Yamashina. Igor pulls me into the room, and you could see they have this huge party going on. But I'm still panicking as I'm not exactly sure what I just said. I could have insulted the man for all I know, and these could have been the sweet moments before I became well acquainted with their nice rug and the river by the hotel. But Igor urges me to say it again, only to the room this time. Yamashina, which means I am the machine. Vumashina, which I later learned means you are the machine. For the rest of the night, the 3 of us drank, and I said I am the machine more times than I can count. From that point on, we were the bestest of friends. We did everything together. But in a few weeks, my class and I were traveling to Moscow, and Igor and Sasha were not allowed to cross the borders. Igor pulled me aside. We're not going to come with you, but we've taken care of you. Don't worry about it. And Igor introduces me to the 2 new members of the mob who would be watching over us. And their names were Igor and Igor. So my Igor says to these Igors, "This is the machine. If you give her alcohol, you're going to have a good time." To which these Igors were fairly happy to hear. So my class is boarding on the train, and I am following them in suit when the little Igor starts tugging on my arm. No, you're not sitting with your class. You're sitting in first class with us. And sure enough, I follow them into a room that's nicer than the one I have at home. And then the conductor walks in, takes off his cap, and pulls out 2 shot glasses. "This is the present for the machine. It would be my honor to do a shot with you." Oh, you're goddamn right it would be. So I'm thinking, between the 3 of us, we finished this bottle of vodka within the hour. And I'm thinking about the great decisions I make in life when the Igor suggests we go to the bar cart and get more. Man, when we get there, I can only look at all the options we have available to us when I hear, Machina, grab some kileb. That's bread. Grab some siya. That's cheese. I'm learning Russian. Grab all the rubles. That's money. It comes to my attention that we are robbing the bar cart. The passengers are faced against the wall, and the bartender has his arms up. And I'm just standing there with an armful of kileb, siya, and vodka. I just take all the rubles, which, doesn't sound like a good idea, but it is the only one I had at the time. When we get back to the room, it is a complete different energy now. When I think the worst is behind us, the little Igor pulls what looks like a set of janitor keys. You see, these are the keys to the whole train. When it gets dark, we're going to rob everybody. It's going to be fun. Sure enough, after dark, I'm rummaging through all of my classmates' things, trying not to take anything too important. After an hour or so, we're done, and the Igors, who are still drinking, go and finally use the restroom. And I am left alone with my thoughts. I know I'm screwed. I robbed the train. I robbed the bar cart. And taking this class isn't worth the sea anymore. In the morning, my classmates are standing on the platform. They're crying. Their things have been gone through. And they're giving statements to the police, who are in turn writing it down. And then the Igors, who are still drinking, began arguing with themselves before they start arguing with the cop. And then Big Igor starts pointing at me. Is he pinning this whole thing on me? Whatever happened to, don't worry, I got you. And then the cop urges me to join them on the platform. My steps are getting shorter and shorter as I'm coming face to face with this angry, mustachioed cop. I understand you are the machine. Yes. Tonight, you party with us. Thank you very much.
The day Paul Bunyan was born, it took 5 whole storks to carry him to his parents. When he was 5, he could flick off the light and jump into bed before the room got dark. When he was 10, he could arm wrestle 2 bears with his foot. When he was 15, he could erase pen. And when he was 20, he left home to start a lumberjacking business and became the greatest lumberjack in America. Seemed like there was nothing Paul couldn't do. That is, until his secretary went on vacation. From the tall tales of the American North, I present my interpretation of Paul Bunyan and the Photocopier by Larry Hammer. The time came when Paul had a pretty successful thing going with his lumber business. The first year his company went public, stock prices rose by 50% and went up another 50 each year after that. With all that extra money, Paul decided to treat himself. He got himself a nice fancy wristwatch with diamonds in it like a real city boy. He got a big truck and, best of all, a secretary. Now, Daisy was a good secretary, a fine secretary. She could fax an invoice, schedule a board meeting, and keep a shareholder on hold all at the same time. And all that without the shareholder getting madder than a polecat in a dishwasher. She worked long and hard for Paul, but even someone like her needs a break every now and then. So, on one cold, blustery winter morning, She came by the office asking for a vacation. "Paul, I'm going to be visiting my sister out of state for a few days. If there's any problems, just give me a call and I'll help you." Did you forget who you're talking to, Missy? There ain't been a problem made that Paul Bunyan couldn't solve. You just enjoy your vacation and leave all the business to me. "Well, all right, Paul. You have a good day now." Paul laid out the latest financial report on his desk. He raised up his axe and whap! Cut 20% off corporate expenditure for that quarter. All he had to do now was take it over to get copies, and he could head over to Dan's breakfast hut for some waffles. "Hey, Daisy, I need you to..." "Oh, that's right, she's on vacation." "Well, I'll just do it myself. How hard could it be?" Paul headed over to Daisy's office, and there he came, face to face with that most loathsome of office appliances, the photocopier. That thing had about 1,000 buttons and knobs and blinking lights on it, and Paul took one look and decided that it was the most vulgar piece of contraptionery he'd ever laid eyes on. But Mama Bunyan didn't raise no quitter. So Paul rolled up the sleeves on his big hairy arms, he stroked his big hairy beard, and he got to work. He tried pushing the buttons, but that just jammed the output tray. He tried turning the knobs, but it spat out a page of black toner. He tried cussing at it, but that big plastic floor camera just sat there like a thumb twiddler on procrastination day. Well, he couldn't make heads or tails of it, but he did learn that a photocopier makes just the most delightful crunch when you put an axe through it. Now, Paul was just a simple country boy without some fancy engineering degree, but as he was looking down at that ruined wreckage before him, he decided that if he couldn't use that photocopier, he'd make himself a new one, a better photocopier, Paul Bunyan's photocopier. He liked the sound of that. He didn't know exactly how it worked, of course, but he knew there was some kind of sheet of glass, something dark and messy to make the marks, and a big bright light. So Paul set out to find his ingredients. Now, Lake Michigan in the wintertime was like a big sheet of glass, so he drove out there in his truck, reached his fingers underneath the edge of the lake, lifted it up, hitched it to the back of his truck, and towed it back to the office. For something dark and messy, Paul thought coal was just about the darkest, messiest stuff he could get his hands on. And he'd heard that you could crush coal into diamonds, so it was only logical you could do it in reverse. Paul took the diamonds out of his watch, and he held them in his hand, and he stroked them like they were the most precious little puppies you ever saw in your life. And Paul's touch was so soft and gentle that the diamonds uncrushed themselves back into coal. Finally, he knew for a light, only the sun would do. Paul tried to jump for it, but even though he could jump higher than 2 Michael Jordans glued together, he just couldn't reach. So he sat there, feeling sorry for himself for a while, wondering how he was going to reach something so high. And he thought, and he thought, and he thought some more, until evening came and the sun hung low and heavy in the sky. And then he laughed. He'd been trying to catch the sun at noon when it was highest in the sky. Now that it was late evening, he could just reach up over his shoulder casual as you please and pluck it right down. He stuck the sun underneath Lake Michigan, rubbed the coal on top, and he was ready to go. Now, as you can imagine, this was causing no shortage of panic for the rest of the world. Senators from a certain farming state were causing a big stink about Paul's solar monopoly. And if it just been senators, Paul wouldn't have cared. But the minute Daisy saw the sun drop out of the sky, she turned her car right around and floored it back to the office. And let me tell you, she was madder than a polecat in a dishwasher. "Paul, why didn't you just call me and ask for help like I told? Well, I didn't want to be a bother. Daisy just gave him a look. You know the one I'm talking about. Paul hung his head down low. He took the sun out, put it back up in the sky, and he towed Lake Michigan back where it was supposed to be. And Daisy took the finance report over to Kinko's and made copies in 15 minutes. And from that day forward, Paul Bunyan was never too proud to ask for help when he needed it. Thank you.
Switch gears to our oral interpretation category. Our first oral interpreter of the evening is Henry Farmer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to present to you, and now, from Nazareth, the amazing, and a warm welcome by Rowan Atkinson. And on the third day, there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee. And it came to pass that all the wine was drunk. And so the mother of the bride said unto Jesus, They have no more wine. And so Jesus said unto the servants, Fill 6 water pots with water. And they did so. And when the steward of the feast did taste from the water of the pots, it had become wine. And they knew not whence it had come. But the servants did know, and they applauded loudly in the kitchen. And they said unto the Lord, How the hell did you do that? And inquired of him, Do you do children's parties? To which the Lord replied, No. But they did press him, saying, Go on, give us another one. And so he took forth a carrot, and said, Behold this, for it is a carrot. And all about him knew that it was so, for it was orange, with a green top. He then did place a red cloth over the carrot, and then removed it, and lo, he held in his hand a white rabbit. And all were amazed and said, This guy is really good. He should turn professional. They then brought him on a stretcher, a man who was sick of the palsy. And they cried unto him, Maestro, this man is sick of the palsy. And the Lord said, If I had to spend my whole life in a stretcher, I'd be pretty sick of the palsy too. And they were filled with joy and cried out, Lord, thy one-liners are as good as thy tricks. Thou art indeed an all-round family entertainer. There then came unto him a woman named Mary, who had seen the Lord and believed. And he said unto her, Put on a tutu, and lie down in this box. Then took he forth a saw, and cleft her in twain. And there was much wailing and gnashing of teeth. But the Lord said, O ye of little faith. And he threw open the box, and lo, Mary was whole. And the crowd went absolutely bananas. Then Jesus and Mary took a big bow, and he said unto her, From now on you shall be known as Trixie, for that is a good name for an assistant. And the servants said, We've never seen anything like this. This is great. You shouldn't be playing in a one-camel town like Cana. You should be playing in the Colosseums of Jerusalem. And Jesus did hearken to their words, and he performed his full act, and from the scribes and the Palestines and the Romans. But alas, it did not please them in their hearts. In fact, they absolutely crucified him. Here endeth the lesson. a warm welcome. Ah, hello. It's nice to see you all here. Now, as the more perceptive of you may have probably realized by now, this is hell. And I am the devil. Good evening. But you can call me Toby if you like. We like to keep things informal around here, as well as infernal. It's just a little joke of mine. I tell it every time. Now, you're all here for eternity. Ooh. Which I hardly need tell you is a heck of a long time. So you all get to know each other pretty well by the end of it. Will you all stop screaming? Thank you. Now, murderers, could you step forward, please? Thank you. Let's see. Looters and pillagers, if you could go over there. Thieves, if you could join them. And lawyers. You're in that one as well. Fornicators, could you step forward, please? My God, there are a lot of you. Can I split you up into adulterers and the rest? Male adulterers, if you could form a small line in front of that small guillotine in the corner over there, that'd be so kind. Thank you. The French, are you here? If you could come down and sit next to the Germans, I'm sure you all have plenty to talk about. Atheists, if you could come forward, please. Oh, you must be feeling a right bunch of nitwits. All right, never mind. And finally, Christians. Yes, I'm sorry. It appears that the Jews were right. So, if you could just come over there, that'd be so kind. Okay, great. So, are there any questions? Yes. No, I don't believe we have any toilets. If you had read your Bible before you came, you would realize that it was damnation without relief. So if you didn't go before you came, then I'm afraid you're not going to enjoy yourself very much. But then again, I believe that's the idea. Okay, so I'll lend it to you then, Adolf. And I'll catch you all later at the barbecue. Bye. Thank you.
Please welcome Jessica J.
She loves me. We're as happy as two can be, and life is heaven, you see. 'Cause I love Lucy, yes, I love Lucy, and Lucy loves me. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I am happy to present Lucy Does a TV commercial from the hit television series I Love Lucy, by Jess Oppenheimer, Madeline Davis, and Bob Carroll Jr. Ricky Ricardo is a talented Cuban entertainer who adores his spunky wife, Lucy. Lucy also has a passion for the spotlight, as well as infinite schemes to get her there. Sometimes she bites off more than she can chew, and then that Lucy, she got some splaining to do. Okay, I'm ready to rehearse the commercial. The new sponsor. This stuff ought to be good. It's got everything in it. Vitamins, minerals, alcohol 23%. Alcohol 23%? Oh, are you the young lady that's going to do the commercial? Yes, sir. Well, I'm the director. You know your lines yet? I think so. Well, let's run through it. And remember, be bright and vivacious. Yes, sir. Hello, friends. I'm your Vitamina Benjamin girl. Are you tired? Do you poop out at parties? Are you unpopular? The answer to all your problems is in this little bottle. Vitamina Benjamin contains vitamins, meat, vegetables, and minerals. Now, you take some. Oh. It's so tasty, too. Just like candy. No. You're supposed to like the stuff. Try it again. Yes, sir. It's so tasty, too. Nope. Once more. It's so tasty, too. Just like candy. So join the thousands of happy people and get a great big bottle of Vitamina Benjamin. Okay, now you've got the feeling. I'd like to do it once more from It's So Tasty Too. Yes, sir. Oh. Pardon me. It's so tasty, too. Just like candy. You know, the stuff tastes pretty good once you get used to it. Yes, I know. Now, would you start from the beginning? All right. Hello, friends. I'm your Vitamina Benjamin girl. Are you tired? Do you poop out at parties? Are you unpopular? The answer to all your problems is in this little little bottle. It's so tasty, too. Just like candy. Honest. So, join the thousands of happy people and get a great big bottle of, meaty Vita Benjamin. Miss? Are you feeling all right? I feel fine. But you know, it's awful hot in here. Okay. Would you mind doing it just once more? Oh, no, sir. Perfectly all right. Okay. Ready? You know, you're awfully nice. Thank you. Go ahead, please. Wow! I'm your Vitamin Benjamin girl. Are you tired? Do you pop out at parties? Are you unpopular? Well, are you? The answer to all your problems is in this little old bottle. Vitamina Benjamin. That's it! It contains vitamins, minerals, and vegetables, and minerals. It's so tasty, too. Tasty like candy. So everybody get a bottle of this stuff. Thank you.
is it that determines who or what we are? Is it the way we perceive ourselves or the way others perceive us? Tonight, I share with you a piece by Tony Kushner from Angels in America. This disease, syndrome, whatever, it afflicts mostly homosexuals and drug addicts. Mostly, hemophiliacs are also at risk. Homosexuals and drug addicts. So why are you implying that What are you implying, Henry? I don't. I'm not a drug addict. Oh, come on, Roy. Whoa. Come on, Roy. What? Do you think I'm a junkie? Henry, do you see track marks? This is absurd. Say it. Say what? Say, Roy Cohn, you are a... I am not going to. Say it. Roy Cohn, you are a... Not Roy Cohn, you are a drug fiend, but Roy Marcus Cohn, you are a... Come on, it starts with an H. Roy. With an H, Henry, with an H! And it isn't hemophiliac. What are you doing? No. Say it. Say, Roy Cohn, you are a homosexual. And I will proceed systematically to destroy your practice, your reputation, and your career in New York State, Henry, which you know I can do. Roy, you have been seeing me since 1958, and apart from the facelifts, I have treated you for everything from syphilis, from a whore in Dallas, from syphilis to venereal warts in your rectum, which you may have gotten from a whore in Dallas, but it wasn't a female whore. So say it. Roy Cohn, you have had sex with men. Many, many times, Roy. And one of these men, or any number of them, has made you very sick. You have AIDS. AIDS. Your problem, Henry, is that you are hung up on words and labels. You think they mean what they seem to mean. AIDS, homosexual, gay, lesbian. You think these are words to tell you who a person sleeps with. But they don't tell you that. No. Like all labels, they tell you one thing and one thing only. Where does an individual so identified fit in the food chain, in the pecking order? Not ideology or sexual taste, but something much simpler. Clout. Not who I fuck or who fucks me, but who owes me a favor. Who picks up the phone when I call. Now, to someone who doesn't understand this, homosexual is what I am, because I have sex with men. But really, this is wrong. Homosexuals are not men who have sex with other men. Homosexuals are men who, in 15 years of trying, can't get a pissant anti-discrimination bill through city council. Homosexuals are men who know nobody, who nobody knows, who have zero clout, Henry. Does this sound like me? No. I have clout. A lot. I can pick up this phone, punch in 15 numbers, and do you know who will be on the other end in under 5 minutes, Henry? The president? Even better, Henry. His wife. I'm impressed. I don't want you to be impressed. I want you to understand. This is not sophistry. This is not hypocrisy. This is reality. I have sex with men. But unlike nearly every other man of whom this is true, I take the guy I'm screwing to the White House, and President Reagan smiles at him, shakes his hand. Because what I am is defined entirely by who I am. Roy Cohn is not a homosexual. Roy Cohn is a heterosexual man, Henry, who fucks around with guys. Okay, Roy. And what is our diagnosis, Henry? You have AIDS. No, Henry, no. AIDS is what homosexuals have. I have liver cancer. Well, you can call it any damn thing you want, Roy. There's not a goddamn thing I can do for you. The NIH in Bethesda has a new drug called ACT with a 2-year-long waiting list. Not even I can get you onto. So pick up the phone, dial the 15 numbers, and tell the First Lady that you need an experimental treatment for your liver cancer. Because whatever the fuck you do have, what it boils down to is very bad news.
Please welcome Matthew Regan.
Marvin? Is that you, baby?
Yes, Mom. Sorry I woke you up.
Oh, I couldn't sleep for the worry. There were some men here looking for you. They weren't police.
Oh, that was about my new job. I got a new job. It's night work.
And what happened to your face?
Oh, I just cut myself shaving, that's all.
There's something you're not telling me.
Well, okay, there is. I met a girl. Her name's Goldie. She's really nice. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Sin City, The Hard Goodbye by Frank Miller. The night is hot as hell. Everything stinks. It's a lousy room in a lousy part of a lousy town. The air conditioner is a clanking piece of junk that couldn't keep a drink cold if you sat it right on top of it. I'm staring at a goddess. She's telling me she wants me. Sounds like she means it. I'm not going to waste one more second wondering how it is I've gotten so lucky. She smells as angels ought to smell. You get in a fight, you get in a war, and you figure the worst of it will be worth it for that one big moment. But that moment, as good as it is, it's never good enough. But this, one last time I wonder why. Then she falls against me, dripping with that angel sweat of hers. The perfect woman, the goddess, Goldie. She says her name is Goldie. 3 hours later, I've got my pants pulled on and my boots laced up, and my head's feeling several sizes too big. And that cold thing that happens to my stomach, and I realize that Goldie is dead. Not a mark on her. You have to check her pulse or notice those two perfect breasts of hers aren't moving like they would if she was breathing. And there's nothing telling me it wasn't just a heart attack in her sleep. Nothing but that cold thing in my gut getting colder. And it's been too damn many times across too damn many years for me to even question that feeling. She was murdered. And I was right here when it happened, lying next to her, stone drunk, just like she was. Damn it, Goldie! Who were you and who wanted you dead? Who were you besides an angel of mercy giving a two-time loser like me the night of his life? God knows it wasn't my looks. Not my looks or anything else about me. Dames without a tenth of what you had to offer write me off as the macho pig I am. So why the sleazy saloon? Why the slow smile? Why the kindness, Goldie? Why, I ask now. But when you got scared, when you trembled, when your eyes went as big as a little girl's? I didn't ask why. Not then. Then, I didn't give a damn about what was bothering you. I don't know why you died, Goldie. I don't know why, and I don't know how. And hell, I never even met you before tonight. But you were a friend and more when I needed one. And when I find out who did it, it won't be quick and quiet like it was with you. No, it'll be loud and nasty. My kind of kill. I'll stare the bastard right in the face as he screams to God, and I'll laugh even harder when he whimpers like a baby. And when his eyes go dead, the hell I send him to will feel like heaven after what I've done to him. I love you, Goldie. My hands are shaking like a kid's at Christmas. The ears fall away, just so many chunks of dead flesh. And there's blood pounding in my hands, in my arms, between my ears, pushing me forward and telling me I'll never be tired again. And there's no thinking and no need for it. The instincts take over, white hot. The animal in me I tried to drown in booze and bloody brawls. He's back. He's howling. He's laughing out loud. He's crazy with the pure sweet hate of it all. And Sin City? She's a big, bad broad, flat on her back, begging for it. And I take her for all she's worth, and I take her again, and she is still begging. Damn, it's good to be alive! Then, I go to church. Not to pray. And what have been your sins, my son? Well, Padre, I don't want to keep you up all night, so I'll just fill you in with the latest batch. These here hands of mine, they got blood all over them. Now, I don't mean really. I wouldn't go to church without wiping it off first. You're speaking figuratively. I knew there was a word for it. You're one smart guy, Padre. When I need to find something out, I just look for somebody who knows more than me and I ask them. Sometimes I ask pretty hard. By way of a for instance, I killed 3 men tonight. I tortured them first. You might say I've been working my way up the food chain. The first 2, they were minnows, small-time messengers. But it was Connolly, the money man, who fingered you, Padre. Dear Lord, man, this is a house of God. Just give me a damn name. Rourke. Rourke? You're really pushing your luck trying to sell me garbage like that. It can't be that big. Find out for yourself, you sorry bastard. There's a farm out at North Cross and Lennox. It's all there. Find out for yourself, and while you're at it, ask yourself if that corpse of a slut is worth dying for. Worth dying for? Worth killing for? Worth going to hell for? Amen. Thank you.
The year is 1968. Captain Willard has been sent up a war-torn river in Vietnam with a single mission: to terminate the command of the rogue Colonel Kurtz with extreme prejudice. However, after an increasingly dangerous and harrowing journey, he finds that Kurtz was all but waiting for him. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you now Apocalypse Now by Francis Ford Coppola. Did they say why, Willard? Why they want to terminate my command? I was sent on a classified mission, sir. Well, it's no longer classified, is it? What did they say? They told me you had gone completely insane, that your methods were unsound. Are my methods unsound? I don't see any method at all, sir. I expected someone like you. What did you expect? Are you an assassin? I'm a soldier, sir. You are neither. You are an errand boy sent by grocery clerks to collect a bill. I've seen horrors. Horrors that you've seen. But you have no right to call me a murderer. You have a right to kill me. You have a right to do that. But you have no right to judge me. It is impossible for words to describe what is necessary to those who do not know what horror means. Horror. Horror has a face, and you must make a friend of horror. Horror and moral terror are your friends. And if they're not your friends, they are enemies to be feared. They are truly enemies. I remember when I was in Special Forces, seems 1,000 centuries ago. We went into a camp to inoculate children. And when we were done inoculating the children for polio, we left. And this old man comes running up after us, crying. He couldn't see. So we go back there. They had come and hacked off every inoculated arm. There they were, in a pile of little arms. And I remember, I cried. I wept like some grandmother. I wanted to tear my teeth out. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I remember. And I never want to forget. And I realized, like I was shot. Like I was shot with a diamond bullet to the brain. And I thought, my God, the genius of that, the willingness to do that, crystalline, complete, genuine, pure. And it was then that I realized that they were stronger than we, because they could tolerate that. These were not monsters. These were men who fought with their hearts, who had families, who had children, who were filled with love, but who had the strength to do that. If I had 10 divisions of those men, our troubles here would be over very quickly. Because you have to have men who are moral, but at the same time who are willing to utilize their primordial instincts to kill without passion, without feeling, without judgment. Without judgment. Because it's judgment that defeats us. Thank you.
Okay, and that, ladies and gentlemen, completes our final round. I now excuse our lovely judges while we give all 10 finalists a much-deserved round of applause. Welcome back. I hope you found your refreshments to be most refreshing.
Woo!
Woo! Yes. So just a quick, tiny little note for my own amusement. We are actually not mic'd tonight. It's just one of the many reasons why we love our finalists. This contraption right here is actually for KSJS recording purposes. So all of these amazing performances that you're hearing projected so well, those are our talented performers. We are not mic'd. It is live. It is the human voice. Hell yeah. Heck yeah. Okay, so I am delighted to now introduce former Kaucher Fellow and two-time winner, the multi-talented Miss Cynthia Espinoza.
Words of wisdom to live by. Never give up. There is a way. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cynthia Espinoza, and it is my ultimate pleasure to introduce to you Pacino. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a story. I had just finished doing the laundry, prepped dinner, and spent several hours writing and editing a couple of short stories, as well as my newest country song, Doon 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 Doon. When I decided to take a Facebook break. Whoa! What? I couldn't believe my eyes. There it was. An evening with Al Pacino. One night only, December 1st, at the Peppermill Casino, Reno. The Godfather is my all-time favorite film. And Mr. Al Pacino is one of the major reasons why. Wait, that's only a month away. So I quickly clicked buy tickets. Truth be known, I'm a real theater seat snob. Only the best will do. And seeing Al Pacino called for up close and personal. The 4,500 seat venue featured cabaret-style seating with cocktail service up front. But despite my many attempts, the site did not offer me the cabaret. Determined to see Pacino, I settled for the second best seats, beside cabaret. But over the next couple of weeks, I called that casino box office continuously in hopes that there would be some sort of Christmas miracle. A cancellation in the cabaret area. And I even called that event manager continuously. Oh, he got an earful of me because I left him a million messages. And the evening before the event, all is well. When my husband and I arrive at the casino, where everyone from bartenders to dealers greet us by name. After a fabulous dinner, we then visit the blackjack tables, video poker machines, bars, and everything else you do in Reno until the wee hours. To me, 10 a.m. is early in Reno, but I do awake, have my coffee, shower, dress, and head down to the video poker bar for an eye-opener, breakfast of champions. Gee, could that be a Bloody Mary? Then to the salon for a mani-pedi, haircut, and style. After all, I would be seeing Al Pacino in just a few hours. Then I put on my favorite sequin-studded cocktail dress, head down to the casino to meet my handsome dinner jacket-clad husband, then to will call for our tickets, and to the lounge to squeeze in another cocktail. By now, the anticipation of seeing Al Pacino absolutely overwhelmed me, and my fabulous husband knew it. As we enter the theater, he takes out a $100 bill, folds it into his hand, finds the captain, and greases his palm with it, explaining that his wife was dear, but oh so spoiled. And needed to be seated in the cabaret. 10 minutes later, we are escorted to the best up-close and personal cabaret seats in the house. And let me tell you, Al Pacino was amazing. When he came on stage, he shared great stories of his career and about character development, all enhanced with clips from his various performances and films. He was honest, kind, and generous with his time. A great talent and a true gentleman. Leaning forward on the edge of my seat, I was absolutely intoxicated by his presence and hung on to every single word. Early on, he expressed that he was inspired by his 8th grade drama teacher and paid a true tribute to all teachers. Then, at the end, he invited everyone to a Q&A. Immediately, my husband urged me to stand and ask the question that was burning in my heart. After a couple of hands, I was finally recognized. My heart was pounding, but I finally mustered up the courage to say, I too was inspired by my 8th grade drama teacher. Now, I'm a professor of theater arts. You'd think that after 25 years of experience, I'd be a seasoned performer and speaker, but I feel like such a giggly girl right now. Anyway, I teach storytelling, oral interpretation, and acting. It's obvious that he's engaged as he walks further downstage towards me. What words of inspiration do you have for them? Once the lines are memorized, forget them and tell the truth. You know, I also always love to tell my students to go out on a limb, because that's where the fruit is, and to always go over the top, because I can always tone them down, but I might not be able to pull it out of them. Yes, great, good job. Thank you. Still shaking and totally overwhelmed. And now, I need a kiss. It is Reno. He smiled, walked to the edge of the stage, took my hands, and the following day, the Reno Gazette reported, San Jose State Professor of Theater Arts, Beverly Mathis-Swanson, asked for advice from Pacino and a kiss. He obliged. There you have it. Never give up. There is a way.
making it your own. And I really want to applaud Cynthia because she herself is an individual who has brought to life several original pieces, unique pieces to this stage. And Cynthia has always been one of the most dedicated members of the KMMS family. She's always here. She's a timer. She's always here to support us. And I kind of just want to give Cynthia another round of applause. Now, it occurs to me that another member of the KMMS family has gone unintroduced for much of this evening. So please join me in welcoming another former winner, another former Kaucher Fellow who is now the director and coordinator of this event. Perhaps you've met her, the exquisite, the beyond brilliant Professor Beverly Mathis-Swanson.
And be off book and everything of you, and here I am with my notes. Let's just hope I follow them so we can wrap this thing up. That's my problem. Kara Guinness was going to do the next presentation, and she had a little snafu on the way here, and I was going to remind everybody how wonderful she is, because she was introducing me a couple of semesters ago, and she was just referring to me, not introducing me yet, and she used my name, and I came out on stage, and she said, "You're not supposed to be here yet." And then another time I was supposed to introduce a former winner to give an award, and I'm about to give the award, and Kara was on stage with me and said, "Bev, she's backstage. You haven't introduced her yet." So I don't know. I need somebody to help me out here. And I'm going to do a brief history of the event in a moment. But since I need some help out here, all right, just to keep me on track, I would like to introduce another former finalist, two-time Kaucher Fellow. That was appointed 2 times. And doing that, I took the distinction away from myself, because I was the only one in history when Noreen LaBarge Mitchell appointed me. And she's here to give the fellowship award. And she's one of the only students who, after taking storytelling and oral interp without credit, sat in on classes for, I would say, 6 semesters, learning, honing her skills, coaching other students. And she just is a fine, fine performer, and was a fine fellow, and is a very good friend of mine. And that would be Erica Kavanaugh! While I talk about it.
Yeah, we've never done it in this order before. We change it every semester.
I don't follow my notes.
Why do you have them? Guys, we're here all week. We're not. Please don't show up again. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Erica Kavanaugh. She introduced me, so now you know me. We're all friends. See you later. For those of you who don't know, the Kaucher Fellowship is awarded every year to a student who has worked tirelessly to further the art of storytelling and oral interpretation. Frequently, these students sit in on classes. They give notes. You've seen them. You've probably worked with them. They've been mentoring you, and they're giving up their time for it. And I was around for way too long, as Bev stated. Thank you.
Actually, Erica started that, the advanced student mentoring.
Oh, I did do that. That you can tell them. Thank you. Guys, there's literally nothing more humbling than walking out onto stage after people introduce Bev because they use a lot of really positive adjectives, and Bev just tells people that you were at San Jose State for way longer than you should have been. Yeah. But I was around for a really long time, and I've seen so many great, wonderful students come through, and everybody's worked so hard, and it's always so much fun for me to see who's coming up and who's next, and I love it when I know the fellow and I know how hard they've worked. And I was here last semester and I saw her, and I've seen the progression to this semester. We have fancy setups, we have a gorgeous program. She has worked tirelessly. Ladies and gentlemen, your Kaucher Fellow, Lauren Doyle.
Lauren, I'm gonna miss you. You know that. Oh, my Lauren. I have another Lauren, but we have a my Lauren. My husband's here, and 32 years is enough. But even for Lauren or Erica to have to put up with me a year, they deserve this recognition. Put your award on the table. You should give Erica an exit hug, and we should introduce finalists, I think.
Yes.
What do you think? Huh? No. No, thank you, but I got it right this time, Erica.
Yeah, I believe that you get it right.
Okay. I'd like to invite the finalists backstage, and we have a moment for them to get into position. I hope you read the history of the event in your program. I wanted to add another thing. Most people know it, but a lot of people don't, that I had the honor, the pleasure, the distinction of studying with Noreen LaBarge Mitchell. She was my teacher, my mentor, my friend, and as things went on, when I came back and was honored to take over the program, it was the Kaucher contest. And Noreen had, and I say Noreen with a lot of respect, when you did shows with her and worked with her closely, she invited you to call her Noreen. And she had retired and everything, and I went to the faculty and I said, this really needs to be the Kaucher Mitchell event. It really does. And it didn't take a lot of lobbying. They kind of went, yeah, I mean, like, duh, why didn't we do that? And so I had engineered that, but there was no. And so she lived about 10 years knowing that it was the Kaucher Mitchell event. And as years progressed, and she came to every event, and as years progressed, she grew ill. And I remember Betty Poindexter and I, our costumer, used to drive up to the peninsula to see her in her care home. And we went quite often, once every week, once every couple of weeks. Sometimes I couldn't make it, or sometimes she couldn't, but mostly, you know, we kept it up. And there was one day I was going by myself, and I said to my husband, I don't know, I just want to remember her the way she was. And he said, Beth, it's not about you. Indeed. And I said, I don't know what to say anymore. He said, Beth, take your oral and turf book. Yeah. So I took my oral and turf book. I did the piece that I won the Kaucher event with, tried out a couple of new pieces on her, and she critiqued me. So gosh, love her. So that's my little bit about the history of the event. And as Lauren said, we have several alums here and former fellows, and that would be Ria Guzman and Cynthia Espinoza, Lee Brooks, Katie Zeisel, Joey Barada, Kara Guinness, and Jerry. So I guess we should move on with this. Should we move on with this? I think so.
Introduce those humans?
Yes, we would like to introduce them.
All right. Okay, so we We are about to welcome back out all 10 of our finalists. Please give a round of applause for Robin Harris.
Mathis-Swanson finalist and our Kaucher fellow. Okay, Laura, have I done it? And we thanked Ramon and Joseph KSJS, and we have a videographer, and that's Kaucher Ari. All right, and thank you. Matt Casey, who just does all this, gets everything where it needs to be, gets us light. God said, "Let there be light," and there was Matt Casey. I mean, and Catherine Swanson in hospitality. Miss Magic Nicole for the beautiful programs this semester. I think we covered it. Our prelim judges, Katie Zeisel, Lee Brooks, Dane Lentz, and, okay, the judges, Price Waterhouse has tabulated. We have winners. You know, they have the Oscar, the Emmy, the Tony. We have the Noreen. And so I'm going to bring them out together. We have to present the Storytelling Award, our last semester's winner, and that would be Rosalind Murtha. Her earlier this evening in storytelling. That would be Jessica Osageta. Don't be hiding back there. Okay, let's see. This is oral interpretation, storytelling. And now we would like to announce our storytelling winner for this semester, and that would be Kimberly
everyone who's helped me be here today.
Protect!
I'd like to thank my parents, Annie and David, and my brother who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. Thank you very much.
And our winner in oral interpretation, Henry Farmer! To quote Noreen Mitchell, they're all winners. They did a fabulous job. Wrap it up. That's a wrap.
Lady said wrap it up, y'all.
Okay,
So TA5 and 131 students, ushers are waiting at the door with their seat at back.